Hello and welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Crow. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and this podcast is being recorded on the land of the Anishinaabeg, Odawa, and Mississauga people. It's really important to me that I continue to learn about this land, the First Nations people who cared for it for so long, and the history and culture of my settler and immigrant ancestors. If you're new here, you might not know that I'm a Canadian yoga teacher, a mom, an entrepreneur, and a forever student who loves to ask questions. And that's why it feels like podcasting is a good fit. I get to ask questions about yoga each and every week and talk to some amazing people. So thank you so much for being here so that we can learn together. I also work as the founder of Pelvic Health Professionals. This is a place where movement educators and healthcare professionals collaborate and learn the most up-to-date information regarding pelvic health. If you want to check this out or join us, visit pelvichealthprofessionals.com. And because I'm a yoga teacher, there's a huge focus inside of Pelvic Health Professionals about yoga and how that can really benefit the pelvic health of ourselves and also the people we work with. Speaking of pelvic health professionals, I need to share a discount code with you because you are here as a podcast listener. So I have a special discount code for you because we have a yoga series coming up inside our membership with Sarah Garden. It's a 7-week series called Yoga for Endometriosis and Pelvic Pain. So if you or someone you know are dealing with pelvic pain or endo, or if you're working with any population of people, I would say this is a series to take so that you can share it in your community. The live classes are happening Thursdays, September 21st to November the 2nd. I can't wait to be there live, but not to worry, there's also a replay if you can't attend live. So the discount code for you, head on over to pelvichealthprofessionals.com. Under yoga, you can find Yoga for Endo. And when you sign up for it, use the code podcast50 at checkout, and that'll save you $50. Now, if you're listening after November the 2nd of 2023 and you're like, oh no, I've missed it completely, not to worry, we are going to have the replays up there for you so you can still take this series if you'd like to. Another little tidbit here is that if you are thinking at all that you want to learn more about pelvic health, I would say join Pelvic Health Professionals. So then you get access to this yoga series, the other 2 that we've done before, and all of the information in there. But if you're like, no, I just want these 7 live classes and the replay for those for the full year, then you can still head on over there and decide, no, that's what I'd like. You'll go over to pelvichealthprofessionals.com, click on yoga, and then click on Yoga for Endo. In today's podcast episode, you're actually going to hear Emily and I talk about pelvic health professionals in case you're like, what is this? And I'll tell you the summary. It's kind of like Netflix, only very focused on the most up-to-date pelvic health information for all of our members, while also fostering this community between all the modalities that show up to help people, from yoga teachers to healthcare workers to massage therapists, all across the board, people who are working with individuals who have a pelvis. As I said earlier, I'm so glad that you're here so that we can learn together. This podcast was really made for you, the yoga teacher, because I know how it feels to leave yoga teacher training and think, gosh, here I am in the world running a small business, trying to still learn as I go and trying to fit everything in. So I wanted you to have a place where you can connect to other yoga teachers, ideas, and information. Returning listeners, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here. You know the drill. We're going to dive right in right after I say a thank you to OfferingTree for sponsoring today's episode. I use and love this software in my own business because it automates everything from bookings to payments to Zoom links, reminders, and so much more. And we have a podcast listener discount code for you over at offeringtree.com/Shannon if you want to check that out. Alrighty, let's get into today's episode. I'm so excited to share this with you because when I heard Emily Light talking about how she was using the Pelvic Health Professionals membership and staying on top of the online learning in there, I knew I wanted her to share her tips and secrets here with you on the podcast. Emily's a yoga therapist who specializes in both pelvic health and the nervous system. And I've gotten to know her through Pelvic Health Professionals and the community there over the years. And I want to say she's just an amazing human with a lot of knowledge and experience. And I'm glad that we got to hang out a little bit more so I could learn even more from Emily. So a while back, Emily said that she knew she wanted to make the most out of the membership. And then with all of the new content that we add in there each and every month, she decided to set up a learning schedule and she told me about it. And then I said, you need to come on the podcast and tell our listeners about this. So this episode is here for you if you've ever bought an online course, or if you're part of a membership, or if you're trying to learn anything on your own in a self-paced way. Oh, and also near the end of our chat today, you're going to hear Emily talk about how she switched to a buy donation business model. And I had to ask a bunch of questions when I heard that. And I really love that this model is working so well for Emily and that she talks about it near the end of today's episode. So let's dive in and meet Emily. Welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher Podcast, Emily. It's so great to have you here today.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm glad to be here.
I'm really excited that we get to talk about how to make the most out of any online content, because I know as yoga teachers, we're all signing up for a lot of things like courses or memberships, and we want to take it in and continue to learn, and that can be a challenge. But before we do that, I'd love to hear what's the work that you do and who do you do it for?
Yes, I am a yoga therapist and I specialize in pelvic health, which is why I'm a member. I run my own private practice. I see clients one-on-one. I have 3 live stream online classes a week, and I have a yoga library, on demand library of yoga classes and a membership for that. I'm also part of the Pelvic Collective, which is a Portland, Oregon based collective of pelvic health practitioners. Mostly there are physical therapists, occupational therapists in that group. I'm the only yoga therapist in this group. We have acupuncturists and naturopathic doctors and massage therapists and a whole host of other kinds of practitioners that work in the realm of pelvic health.
I'm so excited that you're specializing in pelvic health. Like, I feel like then we have this connection. And also, we often get questions from our connected yoga teacher listeners like, how can I do yoga classes that are pelvic health focused? Because over in Pelvic Health Professionals, we're really educating the teachers to teach that. And so I'm excited that they could head on over to your website, which we'll link to in the show notes, and they could do some yoga with you. So let's dive right in. Let's say, well, first of all, we let me go back because I asked you to do this because you shared with me how you're taking in the content over at Pelvic Health Professionals, and I was like, this needs to be a podcast. So tell us how it is that you tackle the learning and make it a regular thing.
I love learning and I do best with structure in my learning. So, some time ago, probably a couple of years ago, I decided I would listen to the guest speakers, the trainings on my lunch break. And I don't do this every lunch, but probably once or twice a week, I will sit down and make my way through whatever video I happen to be watching before or the next one on the list. And I sometimes will take little notes while I'm eating, but I try to just listen while I'm eating. So I'm not doing too many things while I'm eating and trying to kind of rest. So if it's really heavy or dense, I should say, content that I want to take notes on, I will sometimes go back, and when I'm not eating, like maybe if I have 20 minutes in my workday or something, I'll go back and take a few notes. And then I take those notes and organize them into a Word document. And then I title it. And then I put it in the Pelvic Health Professionals folder. And I resource these notes quite a lot. So I really appreciate keeping them very organized. So when I am writing my own copy, I can go back and remind myself what some of the speakers have taught us.
Okay, I love this in depth. And now I have a really like this question is totally from a personal side of running pelvic health professionals. So we, as you know, we create notes for the guest speaker calls, and we try and put timestamps and stuff in there. Is there? Do you ever use those notes? Like, don't hold back here because I'm looking for like really honest feedback. Do you use those notes, and or is there a reason why you make your own notes?
This is a great question. And I promise to answer honestly. I do use those notes sometimes. I don't use them a lot. Now, as we're talking, I'm thinking, would that make my process of note taking easier if I'm listening during lunch where I'm not taking notes? And then I go back to the already written up notes that you provide, do a little copy paste of what I needed, what I found valuable, or going to the timestamps to re listen. That might make my note process go faster. I find I need to write my own notes to understand the content and organize it in my brain. So I will often write a little bit about some of the notes I've taken. I write a lot of copy for my website. I write a lot of copy for client write ups, my yoga therapy clients' notes that I give them after their sessions. I write a lot, period. So writing helps me organize new concepts in my mind. And I feel like because of that, I will always have to do some writing. But now I'm interested if I can expedite a little part of that process by resourcing the notes more. I will say, listening to the podcasts is often where I will resource those notes more because I'm doing things as I'm listening to the podcast. And if I go to notes there, I'm able to quickly find the areas of interest that I want to go back to and write about.
Oh, this is fascinating. So you do the same thing with podcasts. We hear a lot of yoga teachers say that they take notes during the podcast, but I know people are also like driving, walking their dog, like cleaning, all kinds of things while they listen to podcasts. So that's cool to know. Thank you for getting into the weeds of that because it's important to know like how people are using your membership um and one of the biggest roadblocks in or one of the biggest things that we hear from members is, "Oh my gosh, there's so much in there. I hardly have time to take in all of the information." And that happens when you grow a membership. You know, in the first few months, it's fine. There's just a few calls in there. But when you add on more and more, so do you ever feel like the amount of information is overwhelming in there?
No, I get excited about it. I definitely felt like when I started this structure of listening to these guest speakers once or twice a week on my lunch break, I did that because I felt like there is a lot of content in here and I want it, but I got to make a structured attempt or otherwise it's just going to sit there. So I wasn't overwhelmed by it, but I definitely saw it as something I needed to personally create some structure around because otherwise it was going to be untouched. So as I'm making my way through the guest speakers, like I'm almost through them. And I know they keep happening, so I will always have more content. But I have a bunch of other aspects of the membership that I haven't done yet, like the balance series with Shelley Prosco. And I've done a portion of your pelvic health training, but still have some of that last series you taught to go. So I don't feel overwhelmed. I'm excited.
This is really cool. And I love that you said that there was like it was starting to feel like that and then you built it in. I know I've been a part of memberships or signed up for a course at one point and then not used it at all. And that's a bit frustrating because you think, okay, I've invested the money, I made the decision to do this thing, I thought I needed it. And then the next investment is our time. Do you have any tips for yoga teachers who are listening and they're like, "Oh shoot, like I signed up for this online course or I signed up for this membership. How do I start this?" Like, I don't know, maybe some people don't have a lunch break where they can do this. How would you start in baby steps?
I would probably still figure out once or twice a week a 30-minute chunk of time, or if the series or the online thing that the person has purchased are like hour classes, then I'm a big fan of scheduling. I have got to get that on my calendar or it is not going to happen. And if I can get it on my calendar on the same day and the same time each week, that's best. So I don't do that with my lunches, but I when I was doing a portion of your last pelvic health series, that's what I was doing. Same time and day. So there are plenty of times I notice I like might pick up my phone and spend a few minutes like on social media, and 2 hours later I might do that again during a break between clients, and I look at all that time and just kind of add it up and go, "Oh, that's 45 minutes. That's an half an hour. What if I can streamline how I'm using my time?" And I created that structure to get me through the pelvic health professionals content because I was in that place of like, I'm a member of this. I should be using the resources. And so I think I'm I'm skillful at transforming overwhelm into excitement with just a little bit of structure. I'm like, okay, I can tackle this.
That's brilliant. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. All right. Taking notes, I think, is really smart as well in terms of, and then you said that you then take those notes and write something. So I feel like that's that, what's that old saying? Like, learn it, do it, teach it. Where,
Yeah.
yeah, where you're taking the information and then you're putting it out into the world. And that is one thing that gets me really excited because, as you know, because you've gone through the content, sometimes the guest speakers have a lot of information that is really geared towards someone who has already geeked out about anatomy and pelvic health and all kinds of things. And so it makes me excited when our members take that information and kind of simplify it for the general population or put it in their own words or get it out there. Are there any tips with how you take those notes and then create content?
I'm often creating content with a client in mind. I learn something and I think, oh, this is going to be great to try with this client. And so I will write it up in a way that is very basic and understandable because it will be going in their session notes. Um, so I usually have somebody in mind that I'm writing this copy for. And then that copy, whatever I've written, gets stored in a giant database for me to, copy and paste to use for the next client that needs it.
Oh, that's really cool. I love that. So that you're not doing this over and over again. Like say if someone comes in with the same sort of thing and you can tweak it for them. That's really cool.
Can I plug
Yeah.
a free the database that I use?
Yes.
It's called Airtable.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've ever used it before, but it's a really beautifully designed um, database where you can organize all of your written information. You can include images or other kinds of files. And I have maybe like 600 yoga asanas and exercises in my posture asana database. I have hundreds of mindfulness tools and breathing exercises and their own bases. And it's so easy to get the information I need and create my session
I
notes.
think Airtable should now sponsor the podcast.
I'm pretty sure because all teachers really, I sing its praises all the time.
Okay, so we'll link to that. Is it now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like, is it similar to like Google Spreadsheets and Google Docs or no?
No, no,
Okay.
it is. It's much more detailed than that. You can do a lot more, and you'll have to check it out and let me
I
know what you
will. I
think.
will. I have heard people talk about it before. I've looked at it briefly and then I was like, for some reason my brain just registered it as a spreadsheet.
Right. And you're like, okay, thanks. I don't need one with fancy colors, but no, it's so much more, Shannon. Do it.
Okay, okay, I'll definitely check it out. My brain loves things that are like visually pleasing. I do remember that about it as well. All right. Any other tips if let's say someone well, I'll share a tip. Maybe you have one. A while ago, maybe it was around the time of 2020 when everything was going online. There were like online courses on sale and we were all stuck at home and I purchased a few things and then I was like, "Oh gosh, I need to kind of have a place." So I started a folder where I listed all of my courses and things and the login information. Do you have anything like this? Do you store that somewhere or do you not sign up for a lot of courses?
um, my nightmare world is passwords. So I definitely don't have a good system for passwords right now. But in terms of organizing things, I don't have a bunch of courses that I have going that I need to keep track of. I do try to get through them and then go on to the next thing. So I
Okay,
don't have a lot
that's
going at
great.
once.
Right.
That's part of my overwhelm strategy management, I think. But what I do have is a folder that is titled Workshops Attended because I've also taught a lot of workshops. So, workshops attended, there's a Pelvic Health Professionals subfolder in that. And then there's a file for each one of the guest speakers that I have notes on. So, we do have it organized a little bit that way.
That's amazing. Connected yoga teachers, I'm popping in here for a moment because I, like Emily, used to really struggle with passwords, but now I like to use LastPass, and that really helps me to keep very secure passwords all organized and all in one place. If you have something that you use for your passwords, I know that others would love to hear about it. You can share in our comments on our show notes page, and that's over at theconnectedyogateacher.com/341. This is also calling to mind. Someone recently asked me if I wanted to sign up. Actually, two people recently said, "We'd love it if you would take our course. Like, you seem interested," which I totally am. These are amazing people. We've had them on the podcast. They have great courses. I've promoted their courses. And they were like, "We'd offer it to you for free because we know then that you're going to talk about it." And I can't say yes to it. Like, I'm like, it won't be. And so I guess I want to highlight this to yoga teachers that it's generally not the price of the course. Like, someone will figure that out. It's the investment of time. I know that you have a membership. Do you help your members in any way with their time management and like taking in the content?
This is a good question. The things that I think of right away are monthly member newsletters, which detail all of the previous month's uploads. So I add 8 or more videos to my yoga library a month. And then all of the members get a newsletter that details all of those new additions. And I think about that in terms of timing and management because I'm trying to show them what new content is available and I write copy about it. Like you might want to try this series if X, Y, or Z is happening, or, this class is good if you're feeling this way or that way, or if you have this going on with your body. So I write an inspiring newsletter every month to try to get them on these new practices. And then some of my members are actively engaging with me, and some of my members are doing their practice on their own, and I don't hear from them as much. Members that are actively engaging with me, which I really encourage and I love, I may, depending on our relationship, send them emails or send them texts about their practice, asking them what they've been doing in the library, how it's been feeling, if they've been doing the series that we talked about last time, how that's going. So I email and text with my members a fair amount. And I think that is the most motivating aspect of my membership is just getting a little personal note saying, hey, how's that nervous system resilience series you said you were going to start a couple weeks ago going? Hey, how's that 5 elements earth practice feeling in your body? So it feels really nice to have that personal relationship in an online environment.
I'm sure it feels really nice getting that personalized email. Like, I bet it's motivating for people to be like, "Oh, right, I need to." Um, Quick question here. Have you ever thought about emailing your people once a week?
You know, once a month has been such a victory, but I've been doing it for a little bit, so I bet I could probably up that. This is a hard point for me is regular newsletter communication with my broader contact list of yoga clients and students. I almost never email them, and I have a huge list. Once or twice a year, maybe I email everyone. My members, I've gotten on a rhythm of every month, and I've been able to stick with that. But I think more would probably be better. I know I need more than once a month reminders to keep me on track for stuff.
Right. And so on the receiving end, we aim to send an email every week unless we're like, gosh, we have nothing to say in our membership, which doesn't happen very often. So I'm wondering, do you rely on those emails where it's like, oh yeah, the video's ready or the notes are ready or I can attend live or are you like, I don't really need that because I go in and check?
I'm on my own schedule, so I typically don't look at the emails. Um, I like the reminders of the live calls because I do write those in my calendar, but um, I don't know. Just as a reminder, like, oh yes, this is happening tomorrow. But yeah, for the weekly emails, I generally aren't. I'm not looking at those
Right.
because I have my structure. But if
Okay.
I didn't have a structure, I could imagine that being maybe useful to just as a little, even if you don't read it, you just see, oh, there's an email from Shannon. I should I should log in and do a portion of a training.
Right. Yeah, that's why we do it like as the reminder, like, hey, it's ready, or hey, there's this new thing. And sometimes I wonder, are people annoyed with our emails or are they using them? I mean, we can look at our kind of open and click rate, and that's about it. But it's
I will
always good.
say,
Yeah.
pardon my interruption there. I'm never annoyed with emails, but I too, as someone who has a membership and sends out emails, I'm always concerned people are annoyed with my emails. And I'm only sending them out once a month. And I'm like, ugh, is this boring?
Right.
Are you
Right.
sighing every time you see this? You know what? They're not. It's
No.
just our own.
It's our own thing because we
insecurities.
get a pile of like emails that we didn't sign up for or ask for. And then like, oh, email.
Exactly. But our people, they want them. They want them. I want yours, even if I don't look at them. So keep
Good.
them coming.
Okay, that's good to know. That's also good to know that you're not annoyed, even though you're like, I've got my own schedule. You're still okay with the emails going out. I think that's
Absolutely. It keeps me attuned to this in a, if not conscious, subconscious way.
that's why I wonder. I'd be so curious to hear like if you sent out one email a week to say like, there's this new thing in the library, or even a callback to an older one. And then I'm super curious. This is the marketing side of me as to why you're not then tweaking that email a little bit to go out to your people who aren't members but are your student list.
I know. What am I doing? I'm
Leaving.
curious about that too.
There are so many things in my business where I'm like, if I did that, it would be a really great marketing thing. But I'm like, okay, well, I just have to keep everything else going. So,
I
because you're
know,
also,
but it right, doing a bunch of other
yeah,
things that need to be done all the time. But to your point, it is these are the areas that I find it so helpful for other people to see and communicate to me. I have a community of people, just my friends, that will help me occasionally with my business. And yeah, pointing out things that I've glossed over or I've just kind of forgotten about. I do feel inspired actually to send out an email to my big group, my big list more
yeah,
often.
they probably want to do yoga with you. You have it all ready. You have the content of it. That's enough of me. Like, that is not what our call today is about. It's me like giving you a nudge, but I get it.
I appreciate it.
Feel free to do the same. That is one thing that I've noticed about pelvic health professionals, that it's really like created and built on the feedback of members, which I love. Connected yoga teachers, I want to pop in here for a moment to give you a special podcast listener coupon code in case you're looking to create a website, take online payments, book students in, or host videos online. It's for OfferingTree. This is a company and software that I talk about a lot with yoga teachers because I use it in my own business. And I really not only love the way the software works, but I also love the company for their values and just the way they take care of yoga teachers in studios. I also want to tell you about something, even if you don't use OfferingTree, they host monthly webinars. They're free, they're online, there's a replay available, and they get some really amazing guests in to help you with your business. So if you head on over to offeringtree.com/webinars, I'll make sure to put the link to that in our show notes as well. They just did a webinar in there on the 5 key metrics for a yoga business. It's worth checking out. And last month, they did one on how to turn your website into an experience. So they're really going on what questions yoga teachers have, what questions studios have, and answering them in these free webinars. So like I said, you don't have to use their software to join those webinars and get the replay. But if you are looking for a booking software that you can count on, that will do things automatically like payments, booking people in, limiting how many people can book in, that will send out reminders by email and text, then make sure to visit offeringtree.com/Shannon. Alrighty, let's get back into the conversation with Emily today. Tell our listeners, what's your experience of pelvic health professionals? Because you've been in there for a long time.
Yes, I love how it's organized. It continues to grow. I join the live classes when I can. That's been more difficult over the last year than it was in the first maybe couple. Um, I find it such a valuable educational resource that has a variety of trainings around pelvic health. So I'm learning stuff for clients that aren't pelvic health clients in the pelvic health professionals. Um, So I love that it's always there. I love it's easy for me to access, and it keeps growing.
It's interesting that you say that you learn beyond like who you think is going to be a pelvic health person. Because when people say to me, like, oh, like when I say I host this membership for pelvic health professionals, they're like, okay, so pelvic floor. And I'm just thinking, no. And then what I see is like the pelvis is then radiating out to the rest of the body. And I realize that's because I'm super hyper focused on the pelvis. And you could do the same thing with like your feet or your brain or your nervous system or whatever. But I'm just like, this impacts the entire body. So,
It really does. I
yes.
also am hyper focused, obviously, on this lens. It's one of my main niches. But it's also true, I think. So we can we can keep looking through that lens. Yes, the pelvic health stuff absolutely applies to so many other aspects of our body and physiology and life, that I use this stuff with people outside of my pelvic clients.
One of our recent calls was I don't know if you've listened to it yet. It was on the intimacy and pelvic pain. And she said something that stuck with me so much, which is super simplified. Uh, it was Sandy Hilton that said it, and she was talking about like we have to be able to poop, pee, and have intercourse without pain. That's the normal, and that's what we should all be expecting. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a distilled way of like really talking about pelvic pain. Um, Pretty
Yes,
impactful, and it's pretty sad that there are a lot of people in the world that aren't experiencing that and aren't getting, the proper information, education, and healthcare. So, yeah.
I love those simplified ways of communicating what is normal
Yeah.
for our tissues. I think Sarah Haig's incontinence um, presentation training was so good at going over all of these kind of basic ways that the urinary tract works in relation to the pelvic floor. And I've used a bunch of that stuff because it was so basic and thorough at the same time. I loved her descriptions.
Oh, that's exciting. Um, how can our connected yoga teachers do yoga with you? Like, how does that work? How do they sign up? Where do they go?
My website is emilylightyoga.com, and there you can find how to become a member of my online yoga library, and also how to join my live online classes. I teach 3 classes a week: Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, all from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. And those classes are by donation only. So I have folks join for free, and I have folks that have been practicing with me for a dozen years, who are there in that community too. And folks that are able to offer donation payment for those classes, then in support, carry those that aren't able to offer payment for those classes. So I have an unstructured, community supported donation model for my live stream classes, and I love it.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, I have to ask about this now. So, by donation, do you make enough money when you run by donation classes to like pay you? Like, if you set an hourly rate, are you making that when it's by donation?
I make more by donation than I've ever made in any other class.
I feel like what's going to happen is our connected yoga teachers are going to be like, ask more questions. We want to know more about that. When did you switch to
Yeah.
doing by donation?
When I started teaching online and when the pandemic hit, I I just decided to do a donation model straight away. And it was partially because I knew there were people who were struggling that needed yoga. So I knew I had a big enough community to support that. This model isn't going to work if you don't have a big enough community with enough of those clients and students that have resources to pay. But I never set up a structure like I need so many paying clients to have so many free clients or students join. I just I just trusted that it was going to work. So it did, and it is. And my students that are able to offer payment for these classes, they know they're supporting the single mom that's juggling her two kids while she's trying to do class with me. They know they're supporting the person on Social Security and Medicaid that doesn't have extra income. So they feel good about being able to support this community. And I feel grateful that it's all just organically working.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Well, if our connected yoga teachers have more questions about this, they'll have to post them in our show notes and we'll just have you back on to answer them.
Yeah, I'd love to talk more about it. I think it's a really empowering model. And I think there's a lot of good benefit to be had in all directions.
It's pretty amazing when we can start to like break down how our like brains that are steeped in capitalism, how they think it should be, and we can continue to make a living and kind of break that up a bit. Thank you so much for being a member in Pelvic Health Professionals, sharing this out into the world, and then also for coming on here and chatting with us today. It's been fascinating to learn how you learn, and I hope it's inspiring our connected yoga teachers.
I am so happy to have had this conversation with you today, and I hope it's inspiring too. There's such good content in Pelvic Health Professionals, and it only works if we take that content in and
Right.
integrate it and spread it out into the world. So maybe we can think about each other on our lunch breaks or in little breaks during our day, kind of like feel that community support of maybe other people are studying right now too, maybe other members are learning alongside of me right now too.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Shannon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily, for sharing this knowledge with all of us and for saying yes to doing the podcast, and also for really diving into your specialty with the nervous system and also pelvic health. It's really exciting to see you using this out in the world, finding your niche and really continuing to learn within those specialties as well. Connected yoga teachers, if you are looking for any links, if you want to connect with Emily, if you want to check out Pelvic Health Professionals, if you want to join our yoga series that we're doing with Sarah Garden, all of the links are over at theconnectedyogateacher.com/341 for today's episode. And honestly, if you're looking for something on our website, use the search up at the top. That's what I do all the time when I'm like, oh, what episode was that again? I search our website often because the search works really well and there's such a huge resource of podcasts on there. If you want to hang out in real time, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is the yoga series for endometriosis and pelvic pain. Sarah Garden is leading it. I'm showing up as tech support and or a student. It depends if Sinead and I are both there, Sinead from our team. I'm really excited about this. I love that we can practice yoga and learn at the same time. That's really the way to learn how to take a different approach in your yoga classes or to take a different specialty like this one, this endometriosis and pelvic pain, and bring it to your community. So that's starting soon, Thursday, September 21st to November the 2nd. I'll make sure to share the link to join, or you can head over to pelvichealthprofessionals.com, click on yoga in the menu, and it will drop down and say yoga for endo. That's what you'll click on to check it out or to join. We have some other really great topics that we're going to be talking about inside of Pelvic Health Professionals. October is all about diastasis recti. November is all about stress, the nervous system, and the pelvic floor. And then in December, we're going to talk about pelvic health and cancer. And we're even scheduled into January where we're going to be talking about how the pelvic floor is connected with our feet. So check that all out over at pelvichealthprofessionals.com. Huge shout out of thank you to our amazing team over here who makes the podcast possible, Suzanne, Crunch, and Sinead. Thank you for being amazing humans and also for all the work you do for our connected yoga teachers. And thank you, dear listener, for being here all the way until the end. I will tell you a little insider information because you're here right to the end. Next week, we are going to be talking about yoga and parenting. So if you are a parent or if you're supporting any parents as a yoga teacher, this is the episode for you. And I want to leave you with a question today. What will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, your yoga practice, and to your community so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?